Hello and welcome to the session in which we will mainly talk about the introduction to our second chapter, which talks about taxonomical aids. Now in this regard, what I would like to discuss here is that for a taxonomical study, what are the things that we generally require? So as usual, what we'll be looking at is the introduction today, introduction to taxonomical aids. So as usual, my first question to you all will be, what is taxonomy? Just to have a quick recap. Yes, it is the scientific study of classification in a very simple term. In a very simple term, if we use this, then we can tell that yes, it is the scientific study of classification and obviously identification, isn't it? So classifying and identifying. Why we need this? Because the world is highly diverse, isn't it? There is a huge diversity of organisms that is seen in the world, both plant and animal. I'm not just talking only about plants or only about animals. They are very diverse in their structure, function and behavior in all the aspects. They are diverse in structure, they are diverse in their function, how they carry out their functions, and also they are diverse in their behavior, isn't it? And for study of these organisms, classification is essential. For identification and study of these organisms, classification is very essential, and it also enables us to understand the interrelationship between them. It also enables us to understand the interrelationship between them. So, taxonomy is very, very important, isn't it? Now the question comes, do we know all the living organisms present on Earth? The definite answer is no. We don't know. Then how are we going to know them? We can know them only when we can see them, or we can keep them, or we can watch them, isn't it? So classification and identification for the study of taxonomy of organisms require laboratory as well as field studies. So what is the requirement basically that we'll be discussing on is both laboratory as well as field studies. Laboratory or field study, both are essential to understand the particular organism's behavior, structure and its interrelations. Okay? And for this, generally what we require is collection of actual specimens. Collection of actual specimens of these plants and animals. Okay, it's not that just imaginarily I can tell something. No, you need to collect that and then you have to study them. So before going into looking at how it can be collected and what are the different methods that can be used and a few of the methods that we can discuss on, let's look at what is the need of taxonomical studies. That's where I'm more concerned about. What is the need, or so to say the importance? What is the importance? What is the need? Why we should study? Why? We need to understand this particular aspect. So for that, let's have a look at these few points that will give us a brief idea about why we need taxonomical aids or why we need taxonomical study. Okay, so for me, the first point is it is useful in agriculture, forestry, industry, and so on. That's it. How? Okay, how do you think it is useful in agriculture? So if we know a particular type of species which grows in a specific area, then we can grow that species in that area. I cannot just grow a particular type of rice or variety of rice in the desert. I have to grow certain type of crop which can grow in desert conditions. Isn't it? So that is, I'm giving just one example. There are many examples that can be given. Similarly, forestry, what type of forest it is. I cannot expect an evergreen tree to be there in a, or a pine tree to be there in a tropical region. That's not possible. Or a cactus in a very rainy place, or even a tree in a desert. So again, it is very useful when you look at the species. How it is useful in industry? If you know about the plant, if you know about the particular plant, and if you know that what product can you get from a specific plant and it can be used in industry, then you know what is the benefit. Example of such thing I can tell is about sugarcane. Example of such thing is your silkworm growing tree, mulberry plant. So like that, there are many examples on which industries are being built. So for that reason, what I can talk about is that, or what I can say is that, silkworm is that this is very useful to understand in different areas. The second point, what I look at as useful is for knowing our bioresource and their diversity. Okay. How rich our country is, we can know only by the different bioresources that we have and the diversity that we possess. It can be known when you keep record of those. That's what I am talking about, taxonomical studies. Next, utility. Flora and fauna of various geographical regions. Can be understood or known by this. Flora is the plant and fauna is the animal species. In general, they are termed like this. So plant diversity, animal diversity of a particular geographical region can be known by this. The fourth one, geographical distribution of organisms can be understood. Example, kangaroos can be found only in Australia. African elephant, and Indian, Asiatic elephants, they are found in 2 different regions, isn't it? So that way the distribution of organisms can be known. This will help in conservation measure of endangered species, conservation measures that can need to be taken for endangered species, be it a plant or be it an animal, it doesn't matter. But if you know that this particular organism is very rare, then you start looking at the options of conserving them. The next utility will be for classification, obviously is for classification of organisms, because once you start collecting the species, then you try to find out which taxa or which group they belong to and then classify them accordingly. Okay. And the obvious statement is that they can be preserved for future studies. Okay. And also they can be preserved or conserved for studies related to medicine, how valuable they are or how they can be used for our benefit and other industrial products. So it's not just only one area. Taxonomical study has a huge interdisciplinary use or utility. So for this, taxonomical study is essential, and for that taxonomical aids need to be understood, how you are going to help that, continuing or carrying out this particular study. Okay, so how it can be done? The next question that comes to our mind is that how this could be carried out, or what are the aids that is used for taxonomical studies? As I said, one of the component is that collection of actual specimen and then keeping them or preserving them and studies. So this is essential. And this collection can be done by many procedures and techniques that has been established over the period of time, which I will not be discussing about all those at this point of time, or will not talk about all those for us. But yes, what we can look at is that the methods or procedures that is basically used There are many, but we'll not look at all those methods or procedures for storage and preservation or information. What we'll look at is the following ones as we go on discussing about this chapter in different sessions. We will look at in our next session definitely about herbarium, however you want to pronounce. We will look at botanical gardens and their importance, and we will look at zoological parks and their importance. So what we will do in our next sessions will be is that looking at herbarium, looking at botanical gardens, looking at zoological parks, and obviously, or of course, the museums. So these are the four parts in which we will look at and discuss in our next sessions, and try to find out how they help in taxonomical studies, or how these aids help in taxonomical studies. Thank you.